Allow me to teach you something that very few people can. In any civilized country, there are two systems of law that run concurrently. One of these two systems is very pronounced, the other one is very silent. The challenge is that we usually think that this pronounced system is supreme over that which is silent. In actual fact, it is the silent system that is always supreme over that which is pronounced. There's a reason why when someone ascends to the office of the presidency or the premiership, that person is awarded by a title, Commander-in-Chief. The presidency is the point of convergence between these concurrent two systems of law. There's a reason why the aide-de-camp for a president is usually a military personnel. In Kenya, the aide-de-camp begins with the colonel, the rank of a colonel. The rank of a colonel is what is sometimes referred to as the beginning of a political rank. So it is important for us to understand that in any country, there are those two systems of law. Why do you think that the president's aide-de-camp is not a police? The Chief Justice in Kenya today is the bodyguard of that Chief Justice is a policeman or a policewoman. The bodyguard of the Speaker is a policeman or a policewoman. But when it comes to the president, the aide-de-camp of the president is a military personnel. This is because the president, in as much as we might imagine that he is a civilian, the president is not a civilian. In the most recent interviews by the Cabinet Secretary for Defense, Honorable Aden Duale, he said something profound, that immediately after taking the oath of office, when he was being debriefed by the generals, they asked him that from today you have ceased being a civilian. And if you have noticed, the way Duale carries himself in public, he does not carry himself as a civilian. Because in any country, there are those two levels of law. There is civilian law, then there is martial law. At any point, these two levels of systems, these two levels of law run and operate concurrently. So the moment a president assumes or an individual assumes the office of the presidency, that person becomes the point of contact between the civil law and the martial law. A president's number one duty, and that number one duty is actually captured in the president's oath of office, is one, to protect the Constitution. Do you know that when a coup is successful in a country, the constitution of that country at that very moment becomes suspended? The person who successfully perpetrates a coup at that very moment becomes the embodiment of a constitution. It is something that is very important for us to understand, that the president's number one duty is to protect the Constitution. In constitutional law, we say that Constitution, that document is not a legal document. That document is a civilian or a social document with a legal consequence. That means that a constitution is how a people have elected to govern themselves, how a people have elected to run and manage their affairs. And the people say that the person we wish to entrust with this social agreement amongst ourselves is that individual that will be the head of state and the head of government. Government and state are not the same thing. Government is different from the state, and government and state brings in that interplay between martial law and civil law. It's very important that we understand that the true meaning of the word dictator is not an individual that is ruthless. No, a dictator is an individual that has become a law unto himself in that area of jurisdiction. That is something that all of us need to understand. In our national holidays, there's something that usually happens that majority of us merely take it as entertainment or we take it casually. There's a reason why in every celebration, national celebration, particularly in Kenya, there's a reason why it is the military first who do their thing, and after finalizing with their thing, then they leave the civilians to enjoy themselves. It is important for us to understand that there is that interplay, and that interplay is constantly maintained. That interplay sometimes might have some point of conflict, but that interplay runs concurrently. It is important for you to understand that at this point, we are merely employing civil law. At this point, we are merely employing martial law. Let me give us an example. There was once an outstanding general called General Daudi Tonje, David Tonje. General Tonje developed a policy that is currently in force. That core policy in force put in place a rotation of the general, the person who will be the chief of general staff. That one did not go through parliamentary assent. That one did not go through parliamentary oversight. That is a very important thing that all of us need to understand. That there is that conflict. I wouldn't want to call it really conflict because there is no conflict. I just want you to understand that in our country today, there is that concurrence. That concurrence is usually, particularly if you're just observant and keen, that concurrency is usually depicted when government is dissolved. Government gets dissolved at two levels. Government gets dissolved under a coup, or government gets dissolved when parliament is dissolved. At that point where parliament has been dissolved, the president, in actual fact, is in a situation whereby the interplay of martial law takes precedence. It's the reason why when a president is being inaugurated, the president in taking the oath of office must exhibit that instrument of power. The instrument of power is never civilian. That instrument of power is always martial. The reason why the president becomes the head of state and the head of government is because there are those two interplays. The interplay of state is coercion, and the coercive elements of the state appear at two levels. There is the domestic coercive elements of state, which is usually mandated to the police service, and then there is that against external aggression that is military, that is martial. The government aspect of it is now the running of the day-to-day affairs. The number one responsibility of any president or prime minister is to defend the constitution. The moment a president proves that they cannot defend that constitution, they become illegitimate. A president is not illegitimate because they are not developing policies for economic growth. A president is illegitimate because he cannot protect the constitution. The second duty of every president is to protect the secrets of the cabinet. Siri la baraza la mawaziri. In Kiswahili, actually, they say serikali actually means siri kali. Those are two of the most important duties of every president. I hope you found value in this, that we need to understand that in our country, and I would invite you to, from today, constantly observe that interplay. Constantly observe the interplay between the men and women in the forces and the presidency. That interplay usually brings in that concurrence of two laws. My name is Ogwang, and I'm the principal at Franchise and Licensing Institute.